welcome to the live stream, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it. It's been a few weeks since I've done one of these, and I really think that when you miss a couple of things like that, especially in the summertime, there's a couple things that can happen. Number one is that you can kind of, it takes you a while to get back into the rhythm of things, of course, but also there's a propensity to go, let's just pause for the whole month. So it's good to get back into this because, I have missed the last two Wednesdays. So if you've been tracking the channel, we had a live stream last week with Gary John Bishop. That episode has gone live of the podcast. But there was no live stream on the 15th, right? I was away. There was no live stream on the 22nd because of that podcast episode. And I want to tell you what I actually did with that. So this doesn't have anything to do with the travel or the launch of the 10-second inbox. It's more about what I did with my head and in my head. So I spent more time, honestly, than I'd like to admit, trying to decide whether that meant I'd fallen behind. So whether two missed Wednesdays was a gap or a debt. Whether coming back today meant showing up or making up for it. And somewhere in there, I realized I was asking the wrong question entirely because falling behind and stopping, they're not the same thing. Now, they can feel the same and they can get the same name, but they are not the same thing. And I think that confusing the two, what that's going to do is cost a lot of people at this time of year the rest of their summer. It can happen outside of summer as well. So that's what we're going to do today. So for those of you that are new to the channel or haven't followed me before, I'm Mike Vardy, and welcome back to the Wednesday live stream, which as of right now is back on schedule. So it's 9 a.m. Pacific, same time, 12 Eastern time. We're back at it. Now, if you're watching this later, that's fine. You now know why I'm drinking coffee to start things off. Actually, if you're watching this later, you might be exactly the right person for this one. Because I guess later is kind of the whole subject of this. So here's where we're going to go in the next half hour or so. And if you've got comments or anything you want to put in the chat, feel free. First, we're going to go into the difference between falling behind and stopping and why it matters more than it sounds like it should. And then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about why coming back is harder than leaving. And we'll get into the three specific ways people kind of fumble the return. And then third and finally, what to actually do about it. Like the one move that makes a return stick. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my own two Wednesdays that were missed as the worked example throughout, because I think, what do they say, right? What you know? I think it'd be a little bit strange if I didn't do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into it. And what we're going to talk about first is this distinction. So grab a beverage and enjoy. So falling behind. Think about what that phrase actually assumes. So to fall behind, there actually has to be a behind. There has to be a pace that was set, a line that was moving, a position that you were holding, and then lost. So falling behind requires a race that you agreed to run. It requires a deadline, a commitment, somebody waiting. There's a real person, real thing rather, on the other side of it. A person who expected something, a date that came and went, and a consequence. So That's falling behind. Now think about stopping. So stopping is just the absence of motion. Like, that's it. That's the whole definition. You were moving, now you're not. No line. There's no position. There's no one at the other end kind of going, hey, what's going on? Tapping their watch or anything like that. So that's stopping. Here's the thing. Most of what people are calling falling behind right now, in July, middle of summer, is just stopping. But it's got a guilty conscience attached. And what that guilty conscience is doing is something very sneaky. It is, it's kind of converting or flipping a neutral fact, like I stopped, into a moral one. So I failed. And once it's a moral fact, you can't just like get back at it. You can't just resume. You have to feel like, and therefore you feel, you have to atone first. So I want to give you a test for this. It'll take 4 seconds or so. Name who was waiting. That's it. Just name them. If somebody was actually waiting, like a client, an editor, a colleague, kid, reader, then okay. You have a real thing to address and you should go address it. But if you're looking and there's nobody there, you didn't fall behind. You stopped. Nobody sends a bill for stopping. Now, let me do this honestly with my own situation because I think it's as useful as it can get when it comes to how slippery things can wind up being. So 2 missed Wednesdays. Was anyone waiting? Sort of. Actually, it's interesting because when this live stream originally got shared to my email subscribers, the date ended up being defaulted back to, I think, the day I wrote the email. And so there were some people that were waiting. A few people noticed, right, around that. So some people said something, and I appreciated that more than you probably know. But nobody was harmed. No agreement was broken. Nothing collapsed. The live stream didn't happen, and the world continued in exactly the shape it was in before. I mean, Catherine brings up a good point. Future me is waiting for me to do things to prevent extra work later. Yeah. So it was you. But that's a distinction we'll get to. So what was I actually carrying around for 2 weeks? It wasn't a debt. It was a story about a debt. And that's the thing, Catherine, you alluded to this. These are so much heavier, those stories, because you can't pay them off. You just can't. So here's what I've come to believe after a lot of years of watching this in myself, in the people I work with. The time off is almost never the problem. It's the re-entry that's the problem. So people do handle stopping fine. Like genuinely, they go on vacation, they get sick, they have a lunch, family thing, life takes priority, and they step away. And while they're away, they're mostly okay. Then the coming back. It's the coming back that breaks, right? And it breaks in, I think, 3 specific predictable ways. And I want to name all 3 because I think this also applies to when you're making that commitment to future you. Because you probably do at least one of them, and it's a lot easier to stop doing something once you've named it. Just like, when you start time theming and you're like, I'm going to give this household day. Okay, well, now you've named it, so you now can direct your attention toward it. So let's talk about these. And the first one, I'll call it like the full restore. The full restore. So what this is when you come back and you demand that week one look. So let me rephrase that. It's when you come back and you demand that week 1 look like exactly like the week you left. So it's the same volume, same output, same energy, same everything. It's like nothing changed. You were running at 100% when you stopped, and then you expect to be running at 100% the moment you start up again, right? So think for a moment about what that really requires, what that asks of you. It requires that 2 weeks of not doing something has had zero effect on your ability to do it. And that's not how anything works. Muscles don't work that way. Language doesn't work that way. Writing doesn't work that way. A business doesn't work that way. Attention does not work that way. Now, if I'd taken 2 weeks off from running and then went out and tried to run exactly what I ran before I stopped, I'd hurt myself. Like, I think everybody recognizes that, and I don't think anybody would really argue with that. But we do it with our work constantly. We come back from a week away and we open the laptop or whatever. We expect to be at full speed by 10 in the morning. And then when we're not, we don't conclude, well, that was an unreasonable expectation. Instead, we conclude that something must be wrong with me. External forces can play a role in this, but these kind of things you can short circuit with some of these tips and tools and tactics we're going to talk about. But so the full restore doesn't fail because you're weak. It fails because it was never a real plan. It was like a wish with a calendar attached. You know how we say, like, put things in the calendar, and if you put them there, then they're going to happen? You have to have reasonable expectations. So let's move on to the second one. And that's the debt story. We already alluded to this. This is the one I fell into over the last couple of weeks. So I'll be gentle with all of us here, myself included. So the debt story says the gap has to be repaid. 2 weeks off means 2 weeks of extra output to balance the books. And this is really prevalent when you're creating content, for sure. You see this everywhere once you really start to look. The person who comes back from vacation and works a 14-hour day to catch up. And they may not do it on the Monday, but they may do it like on the Wednesday or the Tuesday. The writer who misses a week and then owes themselves double the words. The person who skipped the gym for a month and then starts back at 6 days a week. This happens around New Year's resolution time as well. There's a trap inside of this, and this is the part that I really want you to hear. So the debt story treats rest as a withdrawal. It says, you took something, now put it back. And that quietly means that rest was never actually rest. It was borrowing. Now, if rest is borrowing, then you can never actually rest. All you can do is defer. Every day off becomes a loan against a future day of overwork. And that's not time off, that's a payment plan. Now, I don't think most people would say that out loud, right? I don't think most people do believe it if you ask them directly. But watch what they do. Watch what you do Monday after a holiday and tell me what they and or you believe. So finally, the third one. And this is the one I call the clean slate delay. And this is the most expensive of the three by by a wide margin. This is when you decide that since you've stopped, you might as well just wait for a proper starting point. Again, New Year's resolutions, anyone? But not today. Today's a Wednesday, right? So today's already half gone. Monday, you'll start Monday. Ooh, except as we're recording, Monday's the 4th of August, and that's an awkward date. Where I am, it's a holiday. So, okay, well, hold on. Well, what if we do the 1st of September? Because that's clean. Like, that's a fresh start. For me, it's the start of my year. So, and like September's basically the new January anyway, right? So let's just do that. So do you hear what just happened there? A 2-week stop became a 6-week stop. It's not because anything got harder, and it's not because anything got anything changed, really. It's because you went looking for a doorway that felt symbolically correct. It's why I don't like New Year's Day, January 1st. Ugh. Again, you went looking for a doorway that felt symbolically correct. And this is the one that can eat entire summers. Like, somebody stops in early July and then they spend the rest of July feeling kind of like vaguely bad about it, right? And so they spend August waiting for September, because September everyone's going back to school and it's the beginning of the finish of the year. And then September arrives and they don't feel refreshed and ready. Like, they feel like someone who hasn't done the thing in 3 months, because they are. The clean slate is the most seductive of the three because it feels like planning. It feels responsible. It feels like you're setting up properly, but you are not planning. You are stalling with a calendar in your hand. Like you said here, Catherine, the truth that rest equals reward, and the Mondays always catch up as fast as I can. No wonder why people hate Mondays. Yeah, exactly. And it's not a new problem either. So, okay, so if those are the three ways that the return breaks, then what's the actual alternative? Well, I want to bring in a distinction here that I've been living with for a while, and I've been writing about. And it's the thing that finally made all of this click for me. And I've been doing this for a while. I've talked about it before, but not here for sure. And it's the difference between consistency and cadence. We hear about consistency all the time, right? Consistency is about showing up. Be consistent. It's the reliable beat of a habit. It's the box that you tick off. It's the streak that you preserve. It's the calendar filled in. Now, it's valuable. Consistency is valuable, and I'm not knocking it, right? But it's mechanical. It's what a machine does. Cadence is different. Cadence is like musical. Yeah, I'd argue it's musical. It breathes. It pauses. It speeds up and it slows down. It accounts for tone. So cadence isn't just when you show up. It's how. And more importantly, why. So here's why that distinction matters so much for what we're getting into here today. So if your relationship with your work is built on consistency, then a gap is a failure. Full stop. The streak broke. The chain snapped. You missed. That's a 0 in the column, and there's no interpreting your way out of it. It's like the don't break the chain and stuff. When people say be consistent, they tend to try to do it consecutively. There's the relationship with being consistent is, well, it's consistent. But if your relationship with your work is built on cadence, then a pause is part of that music. Think about it. There's a moment in any piece of music, live music specifically, where a player misses a note. In a live concert, that's going to happen. And the thing that separates a musician from someone who's just playing an instrument is just what happens next. Like, the musician keeps playing. You could argue the same thing happens in a play with an actor who forgets a line and all that stuff, but for the musician, they just keep playing. Not because they didn't notice. Like, they noticed, and they noticed harder than anyone in the room, but they keep playing because the music doesn't stop for a missed note. And that's cadence. That's also grace, which is a whole other conversation, but they live very close together. Like, grace isn't about perfection. It's about permission. Permission for the off day, the rest, Catherine, the stumble that comes when you're dancing instead of just marching. And I said earlier that I'd spent 2 weeks trying to decide whether I'd fallen behind. And what I was really doing was applying a consistency frame to something that only makes sense in a cadence frame. So this guy right here, who lives and breathes this stuff, was counting boxes. I was focusing on the quantitative and not the qualitative. I missed 2. That's the number, 2. But nobody experiences the body of work as a count of boxes. Like not you, not your audience, your clients, your family. What they experience it as is a rhythm. And a rhythm can absorb a rest. I mean, that's literally what rests are for. They're written into the score. I remember learning music in high school, and you learn what the rest, quarter rest, half rest, all that stuff. So let's get practical then. So what do you actually do? If those other 3 things don't work, like what do you do? Well, I think here's the move. And it's a tricky one, and it might seem small, but that's the key. Resume one thing, not everything. And let's get specific about which one. Like you want to be specific because most people will get this part wrong in a way that guarantees that the return just doesn't hold. So here's what you do. When you come back from a stop, when you're looking at a pile, there's clearly a backlog. There's a list of things that didn't happen. And the instinct is going to be to pick the item that clears the most of that pile, the biggest one, the most overdue one, the one that is generating the most low-grade dread, like you could feel it. Don't do that. Don't do that. Instead, pick the thing that reestablishes rhythm. And those are almost never the same item. The backlog clearing task is usually big, it's usually unpleasant, and it usually takes a long time to show like any kind of result. And what that means is you've made your very first day back your hardest day. It's the hardest day. You've kind of designed a re-entry that punishes you for re-entering. And then you're surprised when day 2 doesn't happen. So the rhythm establishing thing, it's different. It's the one that's small enough to actually complete. It's the one that is recognizably yours. The thing that when you do it, you feel like the version of you that was working. It's the one. It's the thing that makes tomorrow easier rather than harder. It's hard too because you're going to look at the thing that's the biggest, and it's gonna take me the longest, so I should do it. You need to get back that rhythm first. So let me make this concrete with my own week. So I picked this, like this right here, the Wednesday live stream. That's what I picked. And if you saw my list, you'd know that this was not the biggest thing on my list, not even close. But I chose this because of what I mentioned. Like there's a backlog, that I have that I could show you, and we both feel worse about it. I can look at my list right here and go, oof. But this live stream, this is the one with a rhythm attached to it. Like it has a day, it has a time, it has a shape. And once it's back, the week has a spine again, right? And everything else has something to kind of hang off. So I knew that by doing this, it reestablishes the rhythm that everything else can work off of. So I think it's also important to talk about the other half of it, and this is the part that most people skip. But you also have to decide what stays down, like deliberately, out loud, on purpose. Not, I'll get to it when I can, which is just, anxiety with a friendly neighborhood voice. Instead, this thing is not resuming this week. That's a decision. I made it. It's fine. Because if you don't name what stays down, then everything stays up. That old quote from Syndrome in Incredible: when everything's super, no one is. And everything is theoretically in play, sure, like all the time, generating a low kind of hum of obligation. And it's that hum that makes people avoid reentry altogether. Now, there's a version of momentum that I think about a lot here. Like there's the initial spark of momentum, the go-mentum. And that's the fire starter. It's the big energy. It launches things, wakes you up early with excitement. But it burns out fast. And then there's the rolling middle, like momentum itself, the hum of an engine that's warm. That's the good stuff, but it is fragile. And then there's the slow kind. I call it slow momentum. It's the nearly invisible kind. It doesn't feel like progress until you actually look back at it. So coming back from a stop, you do not have go-mentum. You just don't. You can fake it for about a day, but you don't have it. You also don't have the rolling middle yet either, that momentum, because that's built. It's not something you just summon out of thin air. The only thing that you have available to you on day one is the slow kind, is slow momentum. 200 words, one recording, one walk, walking instead of running, but not stopping. And I know how unsatisfying that can sound when you're standing in front of a backlog. Like, I've lived it. But cadence is not the flash. It's the follow through. Simple as that. Remember, simple and easy aren't the same thing. Now, I know some of you might be watching this outside of the summer, but I do want to bring this back to the season because there's something specific happening right now as of today, July 29th, 2026. Summer is the one time of year, so this could happen in any July, June, August. It's the one time of year when everybody's calendar kind of goes soft at the same time. You know, kids are out of school, colleagues are away at varying times, clients are slow to respond. The light is different. The evenings are longer. Nobody's really launching anything in the second week of July. Well, I launched in the third week, but here you go. Less people are on live streams. And because it happens to everyone kind of simultaneously, it creates this weird collective condition where it feels like an entire population of people are all quietly convinced that they're the only one who slipped. We're not talking, it just feels that way. So, but you're not slipping. The whole system is just running at a different tempo. Like, think about it that way. So that's not like decay, it's seasonality. So think about that. And every other kind of work acknowledges this. Like framing acknowledges it, retail acknowledges it, education is literally built around it. Like knowledge work is the one field that pretends every week is identical and then treats any kind of variance as a personal failing. So here's what I'd offer. Other than another sip of coffee. If you stop something in the last 6 weeks, the question is not, how did I let that happen? The question is this a rest or is this a drift? A rest has an end that you can name. A drift does not. The only difference between them, is whether you come back, which you can do today. Not Monday, not September, today. So let me pull it together, all of these together. So falling behind requires someone waiting. Check whether there is one. Usually there isn't. And if it's you, ask yourself if it's really a reasonable thing for you to be waiting the way that you are. Stopping is just the absence of motion, and it doesn't carry a debt unless you decide to invent one. So those two last points are definitely correlated. The re-entry is where things break, through the full restore, the debt story, or the clean slate delay. Name the one that you do. You might do all three, but name the one that you kind of default to. And then the move back, it's one thread, chosen for rhythm rather than for backlog. So everything else is deliberately left down until it's time. Now here's what I keep coming back to. A system you can return to is worth more than a system you never leave. Because the one you never leave, it's going to get left eventually. That's not pessimism. That's just how a life works. Something will happen. Something always happens. And when it does, the only thing that matters is whether you built something that you can walk back into. You don't have to trust everything about your system. That's another mistake people make. It's got to be completely trustworthy. Trustworthy doesn't mean you trust everything. It's just enough. Enough to try, enough to pause, and enough to come back. So I stopped for 2 weeks. I didn't fall behind. I'm here now, which is the only part that was ever going to matter. Now, if you want to go deeper on any of this, I encourage you to check out my email that I sent out. I have a weekly newsletter called The Lantern. Just go to mikevardy.com/light and you can subscribe. I send stuff like this out quite regularly, just thoughts and writings around that. Really appreciate you taking the time to be here today. And hopefully you took something away from this that you'll be able to use. Whether it's the summer, whether it's another holiday, whether it's your own personal holiday, I invite you to keep in mind what I've shared today, and hopefully it'll help you essentially stop doing productive and start being productive, and start to embrace this state of productiveness that I'm really trying to promote going forward. So thank you so much for being here today. I really do appreciate it. If you have any comments and you're watching the replay, I'd love to see them. And if you have any thoughts around this, again, leave them in the comments. That's it for this time around. I will be back next week with another live stream, as you do. Until then, I'm Mike Vardy, reminding you to stop doing productive and start being productive. See you later.